Welcome back. Over the past several years, issues concerning energy fuels and services have assumed a prominent role in international policy agendas around the world. Energy security and its place in international strategy and politics have often been compared to the impact of, the first oil crisis in the 1970s. The 1973 oil crisis caused a decline in GDP of about 4.7% in the United States, 2.5% in Europe, and 7% in Japan. According to the United States government, the 1979 increase in oil prices caused world GDP to drop by 3% from the trend. The collapse of the Soviet Union enabled Russia, Azerbaijan, and the Central Asia countries to break the stagnation of oil and gas exports to the world market, while at the same time, South America and West African countries were building new oil productions capabilities. Simultaneously, there has been a wider diversification of world consuming centers. Russia is now the world's second largest oil producer after Saudi Arabia and the largest gas producer and exporter. Now, as the world's largest gas exporter of natural gas and second largest exporter of oil, Russia plays an important role in the global energy supply system. Since February 2022, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine has gradually escalated and deepened the concerns the world about energy security. The fear of oil supply disruption in the market has spurred higher international concern. The significance of oil and gas to the world economy with trading distances across the globe to consumers have attracted security-relevant competition, tension, policy dilemmas, and even conflicts. With disruption of climate change is no excuse and global energy destabilization as well. Now we ask, how much of these changes can affect global energy security? Standing by to discuss this with me is Commodore David Nabaidah, retired. Commodore, welcome on board. It's good to have you. Now, let's talk about the crunch on the world energy security. Of course, you already know any producing region can be a source of energy supply disruption. Recent events, for example, in Venezuela and Nigeria, all of the major producers of natural gas are expected, I think it's a plan, to increase their output by 2030. Yet, the two regions with the world's largest natural gas reserves, talk about the Middle East and Russia, and let's not put the Caspian Sea region, but the Middle East and Russia, which account for more than 2/3 of proved reserves. Now, with the happenings in Russia and in Ukraine, it calls for a global concern, and adding to the fact that climate change is a serious issue. Can you tell what the global impact or the outputs of this Russia-Ukraine conflict would be on global energy?
You know that Russia is the major energy hub. In fact, the bulk of the energy that is consumed, that's gas that is consumed in Europe, which is very vital for their industrial production, for home heating, and for other commercial activities, comes from Russia. Clearly, if Russia is having some issues in Ukraine, and Europe has decided to impose some very strict sanctions on Russia, led by the United States, and as a result, Russia is now embargoing supply of gas to Europe, is bound to have serious impact on the energy security, not only for Europe, but other parts of the world. The global world system is a village, kind of, if you can describe it like that, such that whatever happens in one part has a ripple effect on the other parts. World economy depends upon supplies of energy, unfettered access, affordability, and availability. So if there's any conflict, any crisis, or any disruption to the supply flow, it's bound to have an impact on the global economy. And that's what we're witnessing right now. The Russian problem with Ukraine has generated serious energy crunch. And you can see rising prices all over the world. And it is impacting very seriously on inflation, affecting the well-being of peoples all over the globe. So definitely, there is a corresponding relationship between energy security, conflict, crisis, and peace. You mentioned the issue of Nigeria, Venezuela being major gas hubs. Of course, there are other places, but the supplies that is available in these countries, the infrastructure that is there, and even the quantum of gas that is available will not meet the global needs as it is. And therefore, prices are rising, prices are escalating, and it is impacting on economies generally. So those are critical issues. Nigeria has its act together and can capitalize on the huge potential that it has in gas. And Venezuela can also find itself in a situation where she could ramp up production. Of course, that will begin to address some of these gaps, but then it's a very long call. That's all I can say for now.
Okay, all right, Captain. It's a good thing you actually talked about economy. I would like to ask, talking about economy now, does climate change have an impact on global energy or on the energy landscape? Does climate change have such impact?
Very adverse weather conditions like hurricanes, storms, and the rest of them, floods. All this could really cause enormous destructions, and infrastructures could be affected. Therefore disrupting the supply chain. And when that happens, that is bound to create serious issues of energy security, supply crunch. And that's what we're witnessing. Global warming comes with very adverse weather conditions that could affect not just structures, but affect the capacity to produce and supply products and services. And that's exactly what we're witnessing. And of course, like we said, global warming also comes with what serious impact on lives of people that can occasion and warrant movements, and that can lead to conflicts where people migrate from one part of the world to the other to settle. It creates pressures on resources, and these pressures could lead to conflicts. And where there's conflict, there's bound to be adverse impact on economic activity, including production of oil, gas, and any other energy supply, energy source. So there's a direct linkage between global warming and climate change on one hand, and energy security on the other. There's a direct linkage.
Okay, yes, good enough. Now, I would like to ask about changes that are likely to occur. Now, what changes are likely to affect global energy security? And what are the best national or regional or perhaps global methods of ensuring it?
No one standard formula that fits all, really. I mean, each region has its own unique challenges. Each country has its own unique challenges. So you cannot have a template that can be applied across board. So everybody, like some people are energy rich, they have the resources, but they don't have the capacity to produce these resources. Some people don't have the resources, but they have the technology, they have the resources that they can access these resources, but they don't have those resources in their own terrain. So there need to be cooperation. People need to work together. You have, I don't have. So areas that I lack and you have the capacity, we all work together so that we can now produce for our own mutual benefit. So peace is absolutely essential for global energy security. Where there are conflicts, where there are differences in interest and people are pursuing their political objectives. I mean, if your political objectives are contrary to my own objectives, there's no way we can work together in unison. So you have to be able to find political understandings that will be able to inform sane and rational decisions such that when you produce resources, these resources can be produced, can be made available affordably, and they can be accessible, and therefore it can now meet everybody's mutual interest. That is what you really need. So you need peace. You need people to work together in unison. But when you produce and you pursue individual agenda and you want to foster your own interest over mine, then there's bound to be conflict. And where there's conflict, there's no way we can work together. And that is the real problem that we're having right now.
Good, Commodore. Like you rightly said, peace is very much essential. It's always a pleasure to have you on board, Commodore.